Second night of a back-to-back for the Philadelphia 76ers and their opponent this evening, the Cleveland Cavaliers, which gives us the reason that they have an 8 o'clock game for both teams. But a big one, a big game nonetheless, and a lot to talk about for us here on the PHLY Sixers pregame show presented by Coors Light. Coors Light, visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball to get Coors Light delivered or find a store near you so you can choose chill as the holidays are arriving. Everything is here. Choose chill. All the traffic, all the lines at the stores because you decided to wait until the last minute to go gift shopping.
And then it took me forever to get here because of that, you damn slackers.
See, you're not thinking about the PHLY Sixers show. Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck, Devon Givens. Bree is here with us as always. All of you in the chat, I, Gavini, Tom, Winona, Jess, everybody, what's up? Glad you can join us on a Saturday night for an important game this evening against the 9-16 Philadelphia 76ers, the 24-4 Cleveland Cavaliers, the NBA best, Derek. And with Joel Embiid out tonight, of course, it's a different type of game. We saw that on Monday against the Charlotte Hornets, where Paul George and Tyrese Maxey combined for 73 points. Already we get the news that Paul George is, in fact, in tonight, as Kyle checked it right before we came on the air. But just to kind of circle back to last night, and give everybody an idea of what we saw. You were there last night from Joel Embiid with his 30 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds. Got those 5 rebounds kind of late and ticked off.
Mostly offensive.
Exactly. Yeah. 3 offensive, 2 boards. But just to, and we'll get Kyle's thoughts since he did not go to the game last night, but of course paid attention to it. But your thoughts on, once again, Joel, his performance last night once he came back and what he did against the Charlotte Hornets last night.
Yeah, like I said on the, when I called in from the stadium, I thought the first half was really impressive the way he sort of controlled the game. And he, a lot of times when he has those big layoffs, he comes back and he's pressing a little bit. Sometimes that is with a jumper. Sometimes that is with ill-advised passes. I thought he did a real good job of just using the threat of him, whether it's a threat of a drive. I know he had one of those. There was a threat of drive kicked out to Kelly in the corner, or that was a threat of the dribble handoff. And just creating space for others and really using that to control the game and make good passes and good decisions with the ball. So I thought the first half was defined by that. And then the second half was, okay, here's Joel Embiid, unguardable scorer. Yeah. And he came back and carried them down a stretch. Outside of, and I agree, the rebounding, although for the most part, I didn't think the team rebounding was that bad. I think you're pretty competitive on the glass. So as long as that's happening, I'm not really too focused on who is the one getting those rebounds. I thought he was flat-footed a couple times defensively. Nick Richards specifically took him off the dribble there once. There was another pick and roll. I forget exactly who was the roller, but he looked flat-footed there as well. But for the most part, I was just real impressed for a guy who hasn't played a whole lot of basketball over the last 2 to 3 weeks. I thought he was in pretty good control of that game.
What'd you think, Kyle?
So I would say I think it harkened back to something we discussed over the offseason and the preseason where historically, Joel has been a huge first half scorer, right? He's a guy that he comes out in the first quarter and he might drop 20 points, right? And he might shoot 15 free throws. That's an exaggeration, but he really gets after it. He gets to his spots, demands the ball early, gets a lot of shots up, and he's free flowing from there. And that was sort of what allowed him last season to, despite the fact he didn't play many games, in the games that he played, he was at that, Wilt Chamberlain point per minute type of level. But what we saw last night was something that we harked on, which was, hey, get other people involved early on, right? Like maybe don't take a step back, right? Like still be Joel Embiid, still hunt for your shots, but maybe try to get the role players, get the other guys going, let them get in the flow. And then you can assess at halftime, come out in the third quarter and say, look, maybe I don't need to have a big scoring game tonight. Maybe this is just a rack up assists, pass out of the post, play distributor type of night. Last night, went into halftime with, as Derek said, like a controlled type of game and saw like this game needs me. It needs me to exert my will. He scores 24 points in the second half and, does some of the stuff that I think we've become accustomed to with Joel, more so in the first half of the game. So I was encouraged by that because it's not a style of game we see from him a ton, but it is a type of game that I think he's going to have to play in order for them to, number one, win games in the short term. Number two, try to compete at the highest levels in the playoffs.
Yeah, so just 2 points in the second
Kyle, you
quarter.
sound a little sick. You okay, buddy?
Eight in the
I
first.
had some bad pizza last night.
Yeah, 8 in the first. 8 in the first, 2 points in the second quarter. Sixers put up 41 points in that first quarter, which was a season best in terms of a quarter for the basketball team.
Yeah, and they got up like 15 threes in that quarter, too.
Yes,
Like,
they
they
did.
were bombing.
Yes, they did. And with it, Tyrese Maxey, he dropped all 4 of his makes in that first quarter. Looked like they were going to blow the team out, up by as many as 23 in that one. But as you said, Kyle, once the Charlotte Hornets started to come back, because they just did not quit. They did not. They put up a fight last night, and with that fight,
we've said many times that's their MO, right?
Yeah.
Like Charlotte is a team that they were certainly undermanned without LaMelo last night, but
And Brandon
they are generally a team that is going to make you earn the win. That doesn't mean their record's any good, but they will play all 48 minutes and make sure that you get there.
Yeah, and once the complexion of the game changed to the Charlotte Hornets making it a game, and he had to change his style of play overall, you saw that at the end. Talking to Derek last night, Kyle mentioned to him how you saw at the end, Derek mentioned during his visit with us on the post game with Roy and I, how he did one of his Euro steps to finish at the rim.
Yep.
And then he also had a play that was reminiscent of what we talked about against Serbia, against Jokic, where he caught the ball on the perimeter.
Just quick.
And he knew exactly that he was going at that point. So the game was hanging in the balance. And while you got a couple of key plays for some others, with Paul George making some passes, Tyrese Maxey shots, Kelly Oubre, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But he made the plays down the stretch, including those 5 rebounds in the fourth quarter, because he had none through the first 3 to secure the win and get it done. And it was one in which, too, that as we discussed it during the pregame show, it was hey, this team is shorthanded. Beat this team down, have the organic load management where you sit in the fourth quarter and maybe gives yourself a chance to possibly play tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers. We know that did not happen. But once he had to come back in that fourth quarter where we thought he was going to be done for the game because of the double-digit lead that they had at some point in the second half, he is the one that flipped that switch and turned it around, because Paul George could not hit shots, which we will talk about, and Tyrese Maxey wasn't really, after that first quarter, he did not score as much as we had saw before. So he needed to do what he needed to do and show why he is still Joel Embiid.
And so moving to tonight's game against Cleveland, now that they won't have Joel, I think one of the things that Joel absolutely helped with yesterday, but that we're seeing more and more, is that defensive identity is starting to build, right? Where they talked a lot early in the season, especially the wings like Kelly, Paul, Caleb, about Nick Nurse wants us to play aggressive, right? He wants us to go out there and try to generate turnovers. And it felt like they weren't able to straddle that line between playing aggressive and playing reckless. And I think they're finally starting to find that middle ground, right? And you can see it on some of these possessions, like teams are not able to dribble basically at all around them. Like you get to the middle, Kelly's helping. You get to the one wing, oh, here comes Paul out of nowhere. There was a play from Joel last night where he made a quick stunt and took away one pass.
Yeah.
And then Charlotte, I can't remember who the ball handler was. Might have been Isaiah Wong, Rumpf Classic legend. Tries to make a pass to the space that Joel vacated, and then he got back in there and knocked the pass down. And so some of it is like Joel having the lateral movement and foot speed at certain times, not all the time, as Derek brought up, but at least sometimes. That's a really encouraging sign for me. But even when you take him out of that equation, I do still think that they're starting to look more like the good Nick Nurse defenses rather than the ones in Toronto where it's just a bunch of like guys running around like headless chickens trying to create as much as possible. So that's something I'm really encouraged by. And that's something I want to see show up tonight against Cleveland, who is a very good two-way team with a lot of guys who can hurt you.
All right, so let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about the two-way defense from the wings, Paul George and Kelly Oubre, also a big part of that as well. And you can also see where Tyrese Maxey, as per Derek in all his videos and all you see where Tyrese Maxey discussing about his defense in general. But with that, we'll talk about the defense. We'll talk about his off shooting night because we discussed it just a bit. We'll get Kyle's thoughts, of course. Get yours, Derek, because 2 for 12, you didn't love it, but there were a lot of other things that he did to impact the basketball game. We'll discuss it all when we get back on this Saturday night, second night of a back-to-back. Sixers at Cleveland, looking to finally hit double digits in the win column with the win tonight over the best team in the NBA, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Pregame show, PHLY Sixers pregame show, presented by Coors Light here on the PHLY Sixers pregame. All right, let me tell you about our good friends from TrueMark. You're trying to make sure that you get your kids ready, get them all situated with some financial responsibility. We've been talking about this, so if you're new to the show or maybe you said, oh, you know what, I needed a reminder. Devon, what's the reminder? TrueMark Financial about your kids, your family members in general, the young ones that need to learn some financial responsibility. And coaching is not always easy, whether it's in sports or even as a parent or guardian where you try to teach certain things. Sometimes kids are reluctant, but they get a little excited when they feel like they can do some things independently. And with the Greenlight app, courtesy of TrueMark Financial, they have just that. And with it, they're changing the game overall, helping kids and teens learn how to earn, save, and spend wisely. They can set up savings goals, track their spending, and even get an allowance all right there in the Greenlight app. My niece, she's 11 years old. She likes to, feel, again, that independence of being able to spend some money. So I'm sure my sister will make sure that she is good to go with this Greenlight app. You get a peace of mind, some freedom to make smart decisions with their money. And it's like coaching your kid through their very own financial game. And for TrueMark Financial members, it's completely free. Overall, they get a debit card. They feel pretty good. Maybe they want to go buy some, I don't know, with the kids, some Roblox on the games as far as those games go. They want to go buy the Roblox things to add to that. All right, you don't have to spend my money. You can spend your money and understand how to manage that money right there. So with the holidays right around the corner, now is the perfect time to introduce your kids to that Greenlight app. Get signed up today. Visit TrueMark.com/Greenlight for more information. Once again, TrueMark.com/Greenlight for more info. All right, we also got to tell you about Game Time. Beautiful. Monday. Guess who's back in town? Joel Embiid sits tonight. Maybe he plays on Monday. San Antonio Spurs in town.
Battle of the big boys,
Last time you saw him, he gave him 70. And you get to see him one time in Philadelphia. So if you're feeling, you know what, it's the holiday. I have the day off on Tuesday. Get ready for Wednesday. I'm going to the game. And not only are you going to the game, your last minute shopping during the day, whoever's in the car with you, let's go to the game together. Game Time and Game Time Picks focus on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. And Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste that time searching through the thousands and thousands of tickets overall. So what else do you get overall as we talk about it? Seat views before you buy the tickets.
Yeah, baby.
Curated deals makes it easier to find best prices on great seats. The super deal, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, etc. And those last minute deals, as we tell you so much about when we were in Las Vegas, we went to see Dead & Co. at the Sphere. Game Time and Game Time Picks now for you on the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY, and that is for $20 off. Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers pregame show presented by Coors Light. Coors Light /PHLY basketball to get that Coors Light delivered or to find a store near you. Derek, Paul George, 2 for 12. He's in tonight. We'll get to the starters here shortly, but he's in tonight. And 2 for 12. We'll get to the defense, as Kyle was talking about with the two-way wings, and he played pretty well on that end of the floor. But the shooting.
Yeah.
We saw what he did with Tyrese Maxey as the two-man game there that they had against Charlotte on Monday. But when Joel Embiid comes back, the shot was off. He got good looks. They just didn't drop.
Yeah, so last night didn't bother me at all with Paul George. And I even went back and I rewatched it because I came on the post-game show. I'm like, I actually kind of think he played a pretty good game of basketball. So I went back, I rewatched it. I really like the game of basketball that Paul George
Other than
played.
his daily one turnover of the
No,
night.
he had that one where he
like,
was like in a post up trying to skip it across the court and had no chance.
I was like,
Outside
Paul,
of that
brother,
one, though,
what
he
are
had-
you seeing, buddy?
He had a great. I even mentioned that in my write up, allphly.com. I did the instant reactions because Kyle had a pizza night.
It was a great pizza night at the Newbeck household.
But no, I specifically mentioned that play. Outside of that one, though, I thought he had a great floor game. And if you give me a great floor game with good defense and good solid looks, I will take that. And look, offensively, especially as an individual scorer, he lives off of some pretty tough shots. Not all of them. He gets the paint a little bit, not as much as he used to. But still, in order to have big nights, he has to make a lot of tough shots. That's just not going to happen every night. But for a third option, what I want is a guy who is initiating, who's making good decisions, who's playing two-way ball, and who's rebounding. I ended up with, 9 assists, 10 rebounds, good shots, good defense. I will take that. The benefit of having two other stars, and Embiid and Maxey, both of whom were on, is when he had an off night, he didn't have to press. He didn't have to try to do too much. He didn't compound his off shooting with bad mistakes. And again, he's just going to have nights where his shot's off. He lives off a pretty tough shot diet. When both of them are rolling, you're not going to have 20 shots to shoot your way out of it. I was actually pretty okay with it.
And Derek, to the point you're making there, I've seen some Clippers fans recently are starting to obviously, just like Sixers fans with people like Ben Simmons and other guys, Paul George left, and now it's every game is a referendum on Paul George and what he brings. And I saw some comments last night and this morning, like, oh, if Tobias Harris had this type of game for the Sixers, people
Tobias
be losing
Harris
their
had
minds.
8 assists, 5 times over the course of his Sixers career.
He
So-
would rebound, but he wouldn't.
occasionally.
Yeah.
If Tobias Harris
As long as it wasn't contested.
was consistently playmaking,
Right.
consistently playing high level defense on top of, the third scorer stuff he was doing here, people would not have been as mad as
Right.
they were at him. Like the difference between Tobias and Paul George, primarily for me, has been the defensive stuff. Like 3 steals again last night, where he has been a disruptor. And there are a lot of times where he's not getting credited for a steal or creating the turnover himself, but his help rotations, the way he's just getting to the right spot at the right time and, showing length, like he's got the big wingspan, getting hands on balls, just making possessions not end, but hey, if he deflects the ball out of bounds with 8 seconds left on the shot clock, and all of a sudden you have to create something from a sideline out of bounds play with 8 seconds left, that's a lot tougher situation to be in as an offense. So I think he has been, frankly, even better than I thought he would be on the defensive end. Now, he certainly has not been the scorer night to night and the shooter certainly night to night that I think all of us want him to be. And this is a game where, okay, Joel's out. 2 for 12 and 5 points is not going to cut it, right? They need closer to all-star level Paul George on offense. But I think it's not giving him the credit he deserves to just be like, well, he's basically being what Tobias Harris was, because I think he's showing exactly what people were demanding from Tobias, which is, okay, shot's not there. You have to find a way to make that up in other ways and be a productive basketball player. And that's been what has been encouraging for me with Paul. Is the concern for me was if he doesn't age well, he can't add the defensive value, then he's totally relying on the shot to create all his value. But that's not been the case. He's been a consistent playmaker, consistent turnover creator, help defender, ISO guy on the other end. So I've overall been pleased with him. But yes, they need much more out of him tonight for sure.
Last 6 games for Paul, 19.2 points, 5.5 rebounds, 6.2 assists, 47.8% shooting, 40.5% from 3-point range. Now it's been very up and down, right? There was that 29-point game. Then he had a 33-point game, another 21-point game. Then the other 3 games were struggles. And if that is the case, where the back of the baseball cards, so to speak, the averages over that stretch are good, but the scoring is up and down, that's okay as long as you're doing all of the other stuff.
Yep.
And he has been doing the other stuff. Clearly, 2 for 12 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3. Not good enough. If that continues, we're all going to complain. But the fact that he did have those 3 big scoring nights and he has very consistently been doing the other things, to help the team is why I will live with that performance last night. Like I said, even if those are shots he does eventually have to make.
But speaking about the defense, he had 3 steals, 1 block shot last night, knocked the basketball away a few times to lead to other opportunities, 4 steals for his teammates, disrupting the actions in general. Don't care that it was the Charlotte Hornets with how he played in that way because they just simply needed to win. As we continue to talk about it, they're sitting on 9 wins, 9-16 they are right now. So,
boy, if you would have told me start of the season that they would not have double-digit wins 4 days from Christmas, that would have been.
It was only 2 weeks ago when they were 3-14. So hey,
crazy.
We're sitting in sunshine now.
6-2 in their last 8. 6-2 in their last 8. So hey, they're doing something.
And
they're doing
only
more
6
good
of
than
those
bad.
were against the Hornets.
Hey,
I'm exaggerating, obviously.
You're barely exaggerating.
The pizza wasn't that bad.
No, Roy said they played him 17 times already. So there you go. Last night, that's how much it has been. But before we get to the Cavs in general, Kelly Oubre and his play, Kyle, as we got on him a lot because of his up and down play, the mistakes that he was making coming off the bench. When Nick Nurse decided to put him on the bench and start a few others, we were like, yeah, because he hasn't played well enough. And guess what? He's turned that around, man. In his last 4 games, he is averaging right there around 13 points, close to 7 rebounds, shooting the ball really well. His steals are up close to 2 steals a game. He is playing a phenomenal brand and teaming up with Paul George more consistently out there on the perimeter for that wing. You see what not only them, what we thought they were going to be with the trio of Martin with those 2 out there. He's playing phenomenal basketball.
And by the way, just quick mention, it does appear Caleb will be available tonight, that he wasn't on the injury report. And so that's we'll see if he's able to impact the game at all. But listen, one, when you're shooting like Kelly is right now, it's easy to be a positive force for the team. But to me, it's less about that he's making a lot of shots and making a lot of threes than it is about, again, like I was saying earlier with the defense, I think he's straddling the line perfect of aggression versus recklessness and versus, playing hero ball type of stuff, right? I think he's taken the vast majority of his shots within the flow of the offense, doing a good job when he needs to self-create. That tends to come either in a transition situation or maybe later in the clock, right? Less than 10 seconds, like, all right, we need to do something. I can go out and get it. Otherwise, he's doing a good job of slash, kick, move off the ball, take the open threes as they present themselves, and making himself available as an offensive player. So then that energy is carrying to the other end. One possession, it might be you got to lock down the other team's best offensive player. He's stepping up to that task. Other times he ends up as whether it's because of a switch or whatever they're running on a given possession, he comes in as a roamer. He comes in with help. He's been very good in that way. There's very few complaints to make about how Kelly's playing right now. And it might just be as simple as he's seeing some shots go down and it calms him the way it would anybody else. But whatever is clicking for him, I hope that he can channel this and bottle it up and just have this the rest of the year, because he has been a legitimate impact player for them recently. And that's a big part of why they've been able to turn things around as of late, because he's one of the guys who plays the most. And when one of your role players is playing as well as he is right now, that has a huge impact on the team.
So he's shooting 50% from 3 over the last 8 games. That makes anything look better.
Yeah.
But, and look, he won't continue to shoot 50% from 3. Nobody does. He's not that good. But the shots are materially different. He's only averaging fewer than 10 field goal attempts per game and 35 minutes per night over that same stretch. Mm-hmm. And when you take better shots, and this has always been the case with Kelly, when you take better shots, you are going to convert more of them. His shot diet, the shots that he is choosing to take, and probably more specifically, the shots that he is choosing not to take, are night and day different from what it was to start the season. Because of that, he's more efficient than he was to start the season by a long stretch. He's actually averaging 2 assists and only 1.1 turnover per game over that stretch, which might not sound like anything to throw a victory parade for, but he's a sub, more turnovers and assist guy for pretty much the entirety of his career.
Yeah.
So his bad decisions are down, his good decisions are up. When you do that, you are going to make more shots. And for the most part, he is, shooting threes off the catch, or he is cutting off the ball and finishing in transition. That is all he is looking to do offensively. And when he sticks to that blueprint, he can be much, much, much more effective.
And by the way, has also been a great rebounder as of late. A lot of double-digit or close to double-digit rebound games where we have to talk about rebounding all the time, which some teams and fan bases probably get to take for granted because their team is not such a bad rebounding team as the Sixers have been in recent years. But he has made a hugely helpful impact on the glass, and that does not go unnoticed around here, because we're part of the reason we were big Ricky Council proponents last year was watching him come in a game and go up 2 hands on the ball. So I appreciate some good rebounding. Kelly's bringing that on top of everything else as well.
Absolutely. Averaging around 7 rebounds in that 4-game span where he's really getting after it, helping out the rest of his teammates on the boards. Paul George last night with 10 rebounds. And so everybody else helping out on the glass, they're going to need that tonight. So the starters, let's give the starters tonight. Last time Andre Drummond got the start, 15 rebounds in place for Joel Embiid, where he was snatching those rebounds, leaving no doubt. KJ Martin at the 4, Paul George right there at the 3 spot as usual. Kelly Oubre and Tyrese Maxey round out the starting 5 in the backcourt. That's your starting 5 against the Cleveland Cavaliers, the 24-4 Cleveland Cavaliers. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Dean Wade, of course, the all-star backcourt, that is Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. They also played last night, Kyle. They blew out the Milwaukee Bucks last night. Too much partying for the Bucks in Las Vegas.
Maybe not enough partying.
Maybe not enough.
Maybe they should have had some of those beers we won't name on this show.
They chose chill the wrong way, though. They had the wrong one. That's why they turned down.
They should have had some bad pizza. You know?
That's right. But last night they blew them out. 6 players in double figures, led by All-Star Donovan Mitchell, 27 points last night, 6 players in double figures overall for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are currently 15-1 at home. The Sixers and the Cavs played once this season. Sixers made it a game through 3.5 quarters. Donovan Mitchell could not hit a basket, and then he started to take over down the stretch. They lose that game. This is a nice test, though, for them because, as you said, they've piling up wins with the Charlotte Hornets and other types of teams, but they've been in it with these other ones. If they can get a game like this tonight, and also the duo of Tyrese Maxey and Paul George teaming up, this would be a really, really good win for this basketball team.
It'd be I think a big morale booster on top of just, helps them in the standings. I think that it would give them, this would be the signature win in the season if they're able to get it, especially if you consider Joel being out. By the way, with the starting lineup that we just put up there, I'm a little concerned about Drummond and KJ in the same starting lineup. Now, KJ has been very, very good recently. Have you looked at any of the lineup splits for like last night's starting lineup, for example? All of them are minuscule, right? That's not meaningful data yet. They're beating teams right now with that Maxey, Oubre, George, KJ, and Embiid lineup by 36 points per 100 possessions. That is like elite of the elite stuff. So even if that comes down and normalizes a little bit, they could be on to something with this KJ starting thing. And if we're looking even further into the future, maybe that tells you the Sixers can get some like a true power forward or another like real player at the 4. They might be really cooking something here when they're fully healthy.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's get to we had one super chat that we have to mix in there. I saw that from Citizen X. Can our beloved Sixers have a better record if Nurse wasn't the coach? I think they needed more health than anything.
Well, there's also a second part to that equation. Who you're replacing him with?
Yeah.
Like, sure, if it's Spo, yeah, they probably have a better record, But it very much depends.
I haven't had tons of Nurse-related complaints recently because I think a lot of the things that we were complaining about as they did get healthy.
Please stop playing Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, well,
and now there's also another thing that has to happen. Like they don't have any guards anymore, so
So it's either Lowry or Reggie Jackson. Basically,
honestly,
have to play
at this point, I'll take Reggie.
I think I would too, but it's still 2 guys that I probably don't want to play.
Yeah.
All right,
Derek and I were talking about some Lonnie Walker last night at like 11:30, so that tells you everything.
He's saying all these things about, I like it over here. Like the game is different. It's better. We play it the right way. Let's get to our pregame picks here, courtesy of Bet365, our pregame picks segment. Brought to you by Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365 last night. Didn't do all that well because Paul George did not get over 5 points. I had him at over 19 and a half.
Tough one for gambling.
He
Gibbons.
did not do that. I had Joel Embiid over 3.5 assists. He cleared that early.
He cleared that in the first
Got
quarter.
that out of the way. So tonight, with Paul George back on the floor and knowing what he does with the rebounds and assists, as Derek gave us those assists and rebounds numbers, going with the 10.5 over of assists and rebounds combined tonight. Get back on the right track. With that, even with the scoring.
I think you should be safe on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then Evan Mobley on the other side, over 27.5 points, assists, and rebounds combined from the potential All-Star candidate, the very talented forward from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Those picks, again, courtesy of Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, we got to go. We got to say goodbye. Come back after the game.
Gotta go watch the game.
Got to go watch the game. So we'll do that. You do that. We'll all reconvene back here after the game. Our pregame show was presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball to get Coors Light delivered or find a store near you. We'll come back after the game. Derek, Kyle, Bree, myself, we'll discuss it all with you on this Saturday night. It's chilly out. You did all your shopping, I hope. Sit back, order your Coors Light, put your feet up, and let's watch some basketball, see what the Sixers do against the Cavs. Can they hit double digits in wins? We'll find out shortly. We'll talk to you after the game right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. Enjoy.
We all silly like the mayor.